Hello, my name's Phil and I work for the Consumer Services Department at the Hozelock head office in Birmingham. With over 50 years horticultural expertise, we at Hozelock understand the rewards of gardening and want to help you to get the best from your garden. So in this video I'm going to show you how to change the bulb and, if necessary, the quartz tube on your Hozelock Vorton. The procedure will be exactly the same for all of the Vortons of this type. It's just the length of the unit that varies. Before we start, we're just going to make sure that we've carried out a few safety points. That we've isolated the unit from the mains, so we've disconnected the unit from the mains. And secondly, we're making sure that we're wearing protective gloves because we're handling a product that's potentially come into contact with pond water. So I'm just wearing some safety gloves. So to remove the bulb and the quartz, we first need to take the electrical assembly off the end of the Vorton, and we do that by depressing this release button. That will allow us to rotate the electrical head anti-clockwise, and then the electrical head of the unit can be removed together with the bulb and the quartz tube. To remove the bulb, we first need to remove the quartz tube that shrouds the bulb, and we do that by firstly removing the single securing screw there. Now we've removed that screw, we can then unscrew the securing collar that secures the quartz and remove the quartz tube. Now that collar has been removed, that will allow us to remove the quartz tube, but just to protect it, because we shouldn't be touching it with our fingers, I'm going to use a piece of tissue which will allow me to remove the quartz tube together with its securing collar. It's very important that that doesn't get broken, so it's worthwhile putting it somewhere where it won't roll off the table, because if it gets broken it's obviously an expensive item to replace. Then to remove the bulb, we then use a piece of tissue paper again and just lift the bulb out by pulling it out, like so. To refit a new bulb, you basically have to take it out of the package, and then using a piece of tissue to protect it, we need to fit it back into the electrical head, and it's just a case of lining the contacts up, pushing it in place nice and firmly, and then refitting the protective cap onto the end of the bulb, like so. This basically stops the bulb from rattling against the quartz tube and breaking. We then refit the quartz tube, again using a piece of tissue to protect it. By sliding it in place and making sure that the O-ring seal is pushed down between the quartz tube and the bulb, and then retightening the clamping nut. So we've now refitted the quartz tube into the electrical head, and before we complete the assembly we're just going to make sure that there's no sediment or algae on the quartz tube, and if there is we're going to wipe that off with a tissue. And it's best to use a 50-50 solution of vinegar and water to clean any sediment or algae off the quartz tube, to make sure that it's nice and clean, so that the maximum amount of UV light can actually reach the water and provide the clarification that you need. When we're happy that the quartz tube has been fitted and fully tightened, we can refit the clamping screw that we took out before. With the clamping screw fully tightened, we can then refit the assembly back into the body, but before we do that we're just going to make sure that there's no remaining finger marks or fingerprints or dirty marks on the quartz tube, and cleaning it off with a tissue. The last thing we need to do before we reset the assembly into the body is make sure the sealing O-ring here is fully against the back face of the seating diameter, and then we can refit the assembly into the body. Carefully insert the quartz tube into the body and offer it up in a slightly off-centre position like that, and push it fully against the body and rotate it into place, you'll hear a click and then you'll know that the electrical assembly has been relocated into the body. And that's it, we've completed the changing of the bulb and the quartz tube on the new Hozelock Vorton. That's it, job done.